Welcome back to Political Connections. Just 1 week left of the 2022 legislative session, and lawmakers still need to finalize the budget. For session to end on time, that needs to be done by Tuesday. Some other issues that we're waiting to see exactly what happens with, one we followed closely throughout, that's the Parental Rights and Education Bill, dubbed the Don't Say Gay Bill. There's also the Individual Freedom Bill, which is often referred to as legislation regarding critical race theory. Also, the governor's push for election integrity. And joining me right now on Political Connections is State Representative Daniel Perez. He represents parts of South Florida. And Representative, good to see you. Welcome to Political Connections.
Good to see you as well. I'm excited to be with you all. Thank you for the invite.
Absolutely. Good to have you. You have taken up and sponsored a bill that was a priority of the governor's, and that is one which creates the Office of Election Crimes and Security. And as I understand it, the way this ended up would be 15 civilian officers who would investigate from the Department of State and 10 from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Why was this needed right now, do you believe?
We've seen that in today's society, fraud has definitely ticked up when we're talking about elections and the integrity of the elections. Here in Florida, we've been very fortunate that since Governor Ron DeSantis took charge, we have gone in the right direction to make sure that our elections are as secure as possible. But you can never be as secure to the point where fraud would not exist. And so what we've done is we have put resources behind these new offices of integrity towards the elections process to make sure that local governments, local supervisor of elections have all the resources necessary in order for us to assist them in investigating the fraud or potential fraud that people are seeing back at home during their elections process.
And this would come to light through a hotline? People would put tips there and those would be investigated? Is that how this would go about?
That's exactly right. We will have a hotline. We will have people that will man that here at the state level through FDLE, through the Department of State. We will investigate that internally. We want to make sure that there is no potential fraud or no complaint of fraud that is slipping through the cracks. And so we will have the manpower, we will have the resources financially with around $5 million approximately towards this new Office of Election Integrity of Security towards the elections taking place in the state of Florida through the brave platform that the governor has put forward, as well as us here in the House and the Senate being on the same page with him moving forward.
Did you feel like 2020 was secure?
It was definitely an improvement of where Florida has been in the past. I thought 2020 was a secure election here in Florida. The amount of complaints of fraud or alleged fraud were down in comparison to prior elections. But what we want to do is we want to keep improving. No system is perfect, but we need to continue to move in that direction. And these resources will give that ability not just to the state, but to the supervisor of elections locally, which we have had many conversations with across the entire state, across all 67 counties. Many of them have made their way up to Tallahassee, and they have trekked themselves into my office, which I've always welcomed because we want to work in conjunction with them. And we have a lot of suitors, a lot of supporters for this movement moving forward to make sure that our elections are fair and accurate.
Speaking of the supervisors of elections, I know early on in the life of this bill, there were concerns that they had about when it came to mail-in balloting, some more security steps, more than the normal amount of envelopes, putting more envelopes on and identification ways to make that more secure. And they said, that could become a logistical nightmare if people forget to do this. So how was that addressed?
We did hear their concerns. We had an extra step in the process of the mail-in ballots, of the VBM process, where we were including a secrecy envelope within a certificate that people were going to have to put the last 4 digits of their identification card, license, or Social Security in order for us to confirm that the person voting through the mail or was voting by mail was actually the person that was getting tallied on the vote count sheet. But we did get some feedback that pushed us in a direction to where in this bill we have asked the Department of State to come up with a study for them to do their research and come back to the legislature by January of 2023 on how to best reach our goal for identification purposes to make sure that the people that are actually voting, have only voted once, are supposed to be voting here, and that it is actually the person that's name is on the signature line. And so once we get that input from the Department of State after they've done their research across all 67 counties in conjunction with those counties, then next year we will come back to the table and see how we can get to our goal of continuing the safety of elections in the state of Florida.
And finally, Representative, most recently there were concerns that there were some groups with voter registration, particularly in South Florida where you're from, maybe switching voter registration from Democrat rather to Republican. That's something Annette Taddeo has been out front on. Does this bill address concerns about, switching people's voter registration without their knowledge?
Yeah, I have seen that article. That is an ongoing investigation that I am not in the weeds on, and I won't be until the investigation is complete. But as a precautionary measure, and not because of those allegations, but just because we want to make sure we're as proactive as possible on any front of fraud when it comes to elections, we have done two things. We have increased the criminal penalty from a misdemeanor to a third-degree felony of a first tier for those people that are involved in ballot harvesting, signing without the approval of the actual person submitting the ballot, signing on behalf of the voter, or lastly, getting paid per petition for those people that are gathering the petition. So we've done that on one end, and on the other end, we have increased the penalty to $1,000 per person that is doing exactly what the allegations of those articles are, which have to do with changing people's party or doing the voter registration process or changing the voter registration process for a specific voter without their approval.
Representative Daniel Perez, we appreciate you being with us to tell us about this. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me, and have a great